Hey, welcome to the Camden and Otis Show. We're a father-son business podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And you know what one of our problems is? You folks ain't subscribing. You're listening, you ain't liking, and you ain't subscribing. It's not that hard. I'm going to point to it. It's right there. Right there. So right there, you hit that big thumbs up. The crooked one. Actually, the one on there is pretty straight. McGregor family thumbs are very crooked.
Yes, they are.
You hit the straight thumb for like, and then over to the left it says big word begins with an S. Subscribe. Click that. That way, every time Camden kicks out a new episode of the Camden and Otis Show, like this one with Miss Wendy Watson joining us, and we'll let her talk here in a minute while I ramble on. You get a notification. And you know what? I like notifications, some of them, not all of them. Camden, how many notifications you get a day? Because I know your phone is always going off.
I think I got to be around 100. I don't know. We were joking on a call the other day about the stats your phone gives you. The stats per notifications per day. That would be an interesting and sad one, I think.
Yeah. I've turned a bunch of mine off. Wendy, how many notifications do you get a day?
I don't know. Like this week's been pretty busy.
So that means you don't know, or does that mean it's busy because you're getting a lot of notifications?
I'm getting a lot of notifications because I've been busy.
There you go. Well,
yes.
So it's a double-edged sword, ain't it? Because
yes.
You know, when I was telling a friend of mine the other day, when Ed McMahon emails me, kids, if you don't know who Ed McMahon is, go look it up, Google it. Ed McMahon emails me that I've won the sweepstakes. You know, I want to make sure I get that email. I want to get that notification, right?
Oh yeah, you're 5 minutes late. You're not going to get it anymore. That's how those things go, right?
Ed McMahon's moving fast. You gotta keep up with that dude.
Yes, sir.
I think it's Steve Harvey now.
That's right. That is. Oh man, how fun would that be to have Steve? It was good. But Steve Harvey coming up to your door, that guy's hilarious. He didn't even have to give me the check. I'd just laugh.
Well, I'm thinking, speaking of being on time with things, you know, you got to respond to that email, got to make sure you're catching your sweepstake. Well, we're a little non-timely. I don't know the right word for that, but we missed this a little bit. Our episode 300 celebration. Every other 100 mark, we had a nice celebration. We had some things moving around with hunt camp and rugby season. And so we actually already have episode 300 recorded. It's coming out next week, so it'll be before this one comes out. So this is going to be very confusing for people when they watch these live. But that being said, that you should have a green bag somewhere on your desk, something along those lines.
Do what?
You should have a green bag somewhere on your desk, something along those lines.
It just arrived.
Arrived.
By the way, this green bag got me in a lot of trouble about 15 or 20 minutes ago because it was sitting on Miss Suzanne's desk. And I said, oh, did you win a prize at the networking thing last night? And I started to open it and I got in trouble.
No,
so
you can't open
it now?
You can open it now.
Miss Suzanne says yes. So, all right.
The suspense.
Very exciting.
Especially with the freeze.
I know. Good time on the freeze, I guess.
Ooh, I can see what it is. Look at this. Huh?
The Cam and Otis Show.
Cam and Otis Show. Look at that. And then 300 episodes. The best father-son business podcast. Look at that. Dang.
Read the fine print. Best father-son business podcast, recorded Tuesdays and Thursdays. I ain't getting sued. Come on.
Hey, all right.
There you go. Cheers, Dad.
Here we go.
Cheers to 300.
That's right. Awesome. Well, thank you for all that celebration. Very cool. Yeah.
Definitely didn't throw you out of your funk at all either, right?
No. I'm always with the flow. Speaking of with the flow, Miss Wendy.
Yes.
With flow, in my mind, comes energy, and we start to talk about energy and spiritualness and that spirituality. And I'd really love to hear your definition of what that means to you and that spiritual health.
So spiritual health means that you're, to me anyways, is that you're operating in alignment with yourself, and that you have your own unique relationship with God, source, divine, universe, whatever vocabulary you want to use. You have that own unique relationship with yourself, and that you're actually operating in alignment with your agreements and your habits, and you're on your path, your spiritual path. Like, you're really into it.
Awesome. So let me dive into that a little bit. So
Mhm.
if and when you said habits and meaning like so if I'm my habit is to get up at 4:30 every morning, not that it would be, get up at 4:30 every morning and work out, and then I decide to not follow that, does that mean I'm drifting out of my spiritual
Alignment.
path?
Yeah. Yes. Well, your spiritual alignment.
Alignment, thank you.
Yes, yes. So, like, you could be eating kale, not that most people enjoy that, even though it's a healthy thing and it's something that maybe you quote unquote should be doing. But if it's not healthy for your body, then eating that would be out of alignment for you, right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
we want to eat the things that are meant for our bodies. We want to create the habits that are meant for our specific path and our specific spirit. And that's what I'm referring to.
So
Could
it's
you?
very holistic then. Sorry, Kim.
Yes.
We're talking. So it's not just habits. It's not just diet or other things. It's a holistic approach.
It's holistic. So body, mind, spirit, emotions, physical body. Yes.
Could you talk some about what that process looks like of defining those different aspects for yourself? Because I think this is an area that it's almost a cliche, but it's this, okay, well, whatever is right for you. And that's great and it's true. That's why that's why it's a little bit of a cliche. But then at the end of the day, also, it's so easy to trick ourselves. Well, you know what's really right for me,
Yes.
Wendy? I get up at 10 a.m. and then I don't really like to work much, so I work only 2 hours a day. And working out makes my back sore, so that's not really right for me. Like, we could trick ourselves all of these different ways. So what's your process for finding what works for you without falling into those traps?
Yeah. So one of my tricks is always being in conversation with myself. Right. So, and asking those provocative questions, even for myself, who likes to be a little tricky and likes to be a little bit of a jokester. So I'll ask a question like, what should I wear today? Right. So making sure that I'm in alignment with the colors and everything that I should be wearing. I go through all of that, especially first thing in the morning. But even as I'm getting ready to like leave a meeting and go have lunch, it's like, okay, what do you want to eat today? Right? What do you want to consume? Do we need to take a break? Do we go home to eat? Do we stop somewhere? I ask all of these questions and I wait for my higher self to respond before I do anything.
How do you prevent yourself, or I guess, how do you tease out those two voices, the higher self, and then I guess you might call it the lower self. I don't know what, but there's that other voice in here telling Camden all the bad things to do.
Oh, I know.
What
Yeah.
do I want for lunch? Gosh, it's probably Wendy's. I gotta go get a Baconator, those kind of things. That might not align with what I'm trying to do with my life, though. So how do you differentiate
Right.
those two?
Right. So when I have those moments where I'm like, geez, I only have a few minutes, I'm going to, run by Wendy's. And then when I do that, my higher self will be like, no. And it's like, okay, well, and then I do the whole negotiation process. Okay, well, this is my situation. This is my environment. And sometimes I will get my spirit in alignment with that decision, or sometimes I will have to get myself in alignment with my spirit.
It almost sounds like, and maybe this oversimplifies a little bit, but the trick of, if you're torn between two things and you flip the coin while it's in the air, you know what you really want. Is that kind of what you're talking about there? It's like, once you start making
what do
decisions,
you really want? Are you just being lazy and running to Wendy's, or are you really going to dig in and do what you know that you should do that's right for you, and go home and have that salad, even though the taste buds might be wanting something else?
Maybe I put a little bacon on my salad. I don't.
See, there you go. There's a
There you go.
happy medium. Put the bacon and cheese on your salad.
There you go. All right, you said something earlier on though that I want to understand better, and that is the colors and being aligned with the colors. Now, tell me what in the world that means.
So there's a mood generally or an energy associated with colors. And so, for example, here's a great example. In the first house I ever bought in Phoenix, I decided to paint it like roasted red pepper. So like a really dark red.
Mm.
My brother-in-law refused to come over to our house because when he came into the house, he felt angry because of the red color. Right? So there's all these moods, and I even had a lady come in and as a client, and she was all frazzled and everything and just in complete disarray. And I asked her how her day was. She's like, it was terrible. I was like, all right, well, why? And she's like, I've just been dealing with all these different things. I'm like, is it conflict related? She's like, all of it. It's all been conflict all day. And I was like, the particular red that she was wearing, I could tell was not in alignment with her that day. And it was attracting conflict. Mm-hmm. So we have, right? So even a lot of interior designers will tell you like blue is very calming, or sometimes gray is very calming. Yellow is very vibrant and will give you energy, right? So being in alignment with the colors or the types of fabric or anything like that is, to me, is all equally important.
It reminds me a lot of, you mentioned, there is different, whether it's, branding is one thing that comes to mind, different brands, right. You get different colors and those kind of things. As much as we like to think we don't fall into those things, they do. Those little mental tricks start to eat away at you. And when you fall into those wrong patterns, I can see how that might, create that negative one there. Could you talk?
Have you noticed that all fast food is red and yellow?
Ooh, because it's an emergency. I got to get it right now, right?
No, so there's a scientific process that they've used, and they figured out that red and yellow is the most attractive when it comes to food. So they use McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, all of it. I think the only one that's not is like Taco Bell, but they're all red and yellow.
Well, yeah, I mean, even Chick-fil-A has red in it, right? I mean,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and could you talk a little bit more, Wendy, about how that can manifest itself? Because I can kind of see, if you're aware, I can see the self-fulfilling prophecy aspect of it almost, where I know I put on the red shirt and therefore I see red all day. But what you're talking about there isn't just that aspect; it is also the subconscious power. Could you talk some about that?
There's the subconscious, the energy aspect of it, right? So if you're not paying attention and you're not aware, or you're just grabbing the first shirt and, going with the wind, then you don't know what energy you're putting out in order to know what energy you're going to attract by law of attraction. Right? So if you're putting off an energy, even if it's not color and it's something that you ate or a song that you heard before going into work or something, and you're just in that conflict energy, like something's out of alignment, you can create the conflict in your life by not being in alignment, right? Does that make sense? Did I explain that well?
Yeah, and my follow-up to that then is, what does the positive side of this look like? Because I think it's easy to imagine these negative outcomes, and the positive outcomes are a little bit trickier, and I think that's just, I think, a little bit of our negativity bias. It's easier to picture the negative outcomes. Could you talk a little bit about, if this is the right shirt for me, how you pick those kind of things, what that does to your day type thing?
Right. So I do that in my morning meditation, right? I figure out what I'm going to eat, how I'm going to set my day, what clothes I'm going to wear, everything in my morning meditation. And so what that does is it sets everything in order for the intentions that I want to have for that day, for the people that I want to attract, for the clients I want to attract, for the contracts that I want to create with people, with my relationship with my cat or anything else. It sets everything in order to be successful with my intentions.
I like that because what you're doing is you're establishing the environment that you're going into, and the environment is your clothes. Most people don't think about the environment that they're stepping into as the clothes they're wearing. They think about stepping outside, and it's a little chilly out, so we're wearing flannel shirts today because maybe we're finally getting some fall weather sort of stuff. They're thinking in that sense and not in the what code am I setting. I always think back, and I don't remember if I heard it in politics or what, but the red power tie, right? So
you were reading my mind. That's where I was going to go next, right? The red
and
power suit.
You watch the politicians, you watch them like in debates and stuff like that, and the men will all have their red ties on. Didn't Hillary Clinton like wear a red pantsuit one time in a debate or something like that? I mean, it's like she's ready to.
she was ready to fight.
Yeah.
Right.
So that
it's the same thing. It's the same thing as wearing black to a funeral. You don't see somebody wearing a canary yellow suit to a funeral, right? You might see grays or whites or like a navy blue or black, but it's a darker, more sombering color versus something that's fuchsia or right. Unless it's appropriate for the person.
That's true. There are some folks that's probably the appropriate attire to celebrate, but then we wouldn't call it, that probably wouldn't be a funeral. It'd be a celebration of life, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. There you go. 100%. Yeah.
Could you provide, and I don't know what this exactly look like because like you're saying, it is so personal, but could you, I almost feel like I'm asking for like fashion tips, but could you talk a little bit about these different colors and give us a little bit of a crash course into what it is you're talking about there so that, tomorrow morning when I get up to go coach rugby, I can make sure I'm in the right outfit.
Right. I don't know, like you'll never see me in red, right? Mm-hmm. It's just not a color that jives with me as far as how I want to present myself. Mm-hmm. So you'll see, so for me, like fuchsias or like really warm kind of pinks, those are my colors. Mm-hmm. Or even like this dark green today, because I was going into more of a business networking, actually just business all day. So, but it was, it's Friday, so I'm kind of toning it down a little bit, right? Monday, Tuesday, when you have all those high energies, you might want to wear something a little brighter. Or if you're feeling really low on energy that day, you might want to wear something a little bit brighter. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to assess your day and your intentions and your energy levels in order to figure out what to wear, I guess.
I'm marking this clip for my wife, but you're saying, so talking about colors, that's why we wear, on Wednesdays, we wear pink, right? That whole thing from Mean Girls. That's why you got to wear pink on Wednesdays because it gives you that energy, get you through the rest of the week, right?
Exactly, because it's hump day. So you got to get out, you need the energy in order to get over that hump.
All right, Jessica, you heard that.
No idea what y'all are talking about. So
come on, Dad.
Pink on Wednesday. Yeah,
come on.
I haven't heard of that either. I was just going.
Oh, come on, y'all. It's a classic. All right. After this show, we're gonna go watch some Mean Girls, okay?
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I've never seen that.
We'll do a group viewing of it. Okay.
Yes, sir. All right. I didn't know I was bringing up Mean Girls on today's show. Okay.
Wow. Yeah. So, yeah, that one's. I'm gonna pull us back.
Yeah.
I want to, because I've done massages, and you're a massage therapist, right? That's the right term, right? So,
I'm a spiritual therapist that also offers massage, but I'm stepping away from that.
That's right. I remember you and I talking about that. How do those two coincide? The spiritualness with the hands-on with the individual, because you're physically touching the person.
Right. So that's a great question, right? So there's one thing if you go into get a massage and your lower back hurts, and so they rub your low back muscles in order to ease the pain, but that's just the band-aid of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So by also so you have massage therapists that are more structured. They're in the logical structural. They go from A to B to C, and they follow that lineage, right? So they're very structured in it. And then there's therapists like me that are more energy based, right? So when I'm giving you a massage, I'm not just massaging the muscle, I'm moving the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then there's different techniques that you can use in order to reset the energy. And by doing that, you unlock the muscle patterns. And by unlocking the muscle patterns, I don't have to work so hard and you don't have to work so hard. And therefore, the massage isn't so painful. But it actually lasts longer too.
Is it kind of similar principles as acupuncture? Is it that, or is it not anything like that?
So acupuncture is based off Chinese meridians,
mm-hmm.
right? So if you look at the latitude and longitude lines around the Earth, they're energy channels. So I assimilate those with the meridians, right? People know what those lines are. So that's what that is. So that is an aspect of it. There's also cranial sacral, Reiki, polarity. One of my favorites is energy medicine, or oh my gosh, what was it called? Myofascial energy massage. And myofascial is also an energy-based modality. So, for example, if you're face down and I pull your shoulder up towards the midline, up towards your spine, and then let your body relax it down, number one, I'm seeing where your tensions are. And number two, by bringing anything towards the midline, you're releasing the holding patterns.
Mm-hmm.
When you release the holding patterns, the muscles automatically relax. And then it's easier for me to get in there and actually work it, and it's less painful for you.
This episode of the Camden and Otis Show is brought to you by Tribe and Purpose.
Are you tired of dealing with the cost of bad leadership? It's time to make a change.
The Green Beret Leadership Program is your key to unlocking the full potential of your team.
By using GBLP to develop leaders in your business, you'll get a proactive and responsible team that embraces challenges, takes calculated risks, and takes action without constant supervision.
Developing great leaders can take a lot of time and energy, and that's why businesses tend to opt for the trial by fire and the school of hard knocks path to leadership. The truth is that wastes time and money, and folks, there's never enough of either one of those, and puts lots of extra stress on your leadership team.
Oh yeah, and that stress has lots of bad outcomes for your team. Poor leadership drives away your quality talent, and the longer you wait to fix the problem, the more talent you're going to lose and the more money you're going to lose.
With the Green Beret Leadership Program, you can use battle-tested leadership principles of the Green Berets to develop great leaders in your team faster than with the School of Hard Knocks. You'll see changes in just a few short weeks.
And the longer you wait to take action, the more damage poor leadership can do and will do to your business.
Learn more about the impact of GBLP, that's the Green Beret Leadership Program, can have on your business, and schedule your free coaching call with the Green Beret coach. That's me, folks, Otis. Now at findyourpurpose.coach/GBLP. I'll say it again, findyourpurpose.coach/GBLP, or you can click the link in the description below.
Could you expand a little bit on the physical manifestation side of that? Because I think that's where it's really interesting. Where I think I think if you start talking like energy massage, people are like, okay, wait, I'm just going to hold my hands over you, and we're going to do all this stuff. But it's then at the same time, I could be carrying some bad energy in my back. It's a knot. It is a physical knot. There's a physical manifestation of it, whether you want to call it energy or all these different things. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's that interesting connection that a lot of people are really looking for, was they could hear the spiritual things and it's interesting, but then it's like, okay, what does that really look like? What does that really feel like, and those kind of things?
Okay, so I'm I'm gonna give you the layman's terms first.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'm good with layman's terms.
Have you ever felt stressed?
Yes.
Okay, when you feel stressed, your muscles get tight, right?
Mm-hmm.
When your muscles get tight, what happens?
Contract.
The fibers bundle up together, and that's what creates a knot.
Mm-hmm.
So the energy of the stress is what contracts the muscles and helps create adhesions and knots. And maybe you had an injury, right? The injury creates the scar tissue, but the energy and the trauma around the injury
Mm-hmm.
is going to help keep that scar tissue in place.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I had a client, left shoulder issues. We worked every week for probably 4 or 5 weeks.
Wow.
And the deep tissue work just wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked him if I could just try some energy work, right? So you're fully clothed, right? So with regular massage, you generally get undressed. With the energy work, you stay clothed. And so I just did energy work around his left shoulder. He said he felt better. The next time he came in, he's like, I got to tell you, he's like, the intimacy level was so much deeper. Even though he was completely dressed, he felt a more intimate session, but he got more benefit out of that than the deep tissue work. And I was like, okay. He's like, I even told my wife, I was like, oh, what was her reaction? I don't need some angry wife come knocking at my door.
Careful with your word choice, right?
Right. And he's like, she loved it. And I was like, okay, good. I'm safe. You just get it. It's just a deeper connection that you connect with somebody. And by taking the energy out of it, then the muscles and the body and everything relaxes, right?
Where did this fascination and now a core source of your business with the dive into the energy level, where'd you discover that? How'd you fall into it? Where'd it come from?
So I never, in my family is very self-unaware. I've never met more people that are more unaware of themselves. So this was not a thing growing up, and I grew up in corporate America, and it's not a thing in corporate America either, right? But when I got restructured in 2009 and started going to school for massage therapy, the benefit to the school that I went to was that each month was a different modality that we got to learn. And
by that you mean like Swedish massage versus sports therapy, deep tissue. Okay.
Versus the myofascial versus the cranial sacral, right? The more I learned about each thing, the more I noticed I gravitated towards the energy-based modalities. And then after I started working at a yoga studio, right? Because yoga is all about energy and energy flow. And it really started coming forward. And then after my second divorce and loss of a child and going through clearing all of that toxicity and healing and figuring out what habits I was using in order to collect these types of people and these types of events going on, it was just like another layer that just kept getting deeper and deeper as I got into it.
So what was the first healing, I guess, that you felt? You mentioned several things. And how did you self-heal? Because I think that's a big issue that a lot of us have. I mean, we seek out coaches, mentors, and things like that, but there's also a lot of self-work that needs to happen.
Right. So first you got to ask the main question, why? Right? That has been the story of my life. I will always and forever ask the questions why from the day I came out of the womb. I'm just like, why? I want to know the why.
Mhm.
So you really have to start there. You have to start with the why. But for me, as far as like the energy and the spiritual healing, my Bible is a book called Energy Medicine by Dr. Donna Eden. And she talks about our 9 different energy systems, and there's exercises and examples and ways to do that yourself in her book. And I will tell you, like, it completely changed my life.
Mhm.
Completely. And I thought about taking her courses in person, but I feel like I get enough out of the book.
Could you talk some about, because having that thirst to follow that why, that thirst for knowledge there, I think it's really interesting because, but for a lot of people looking into things like energy, spirituality, and that, there's this gap of the why sometimes. That it's almost like we almost picture like the parent who wants us to go to church. And it's like, well, why? It's like, because I said so. And that's it. And it's like, oh, why does this energy stuff work? Well, because it does. And I could see how that desire to continually ask why could, I don't know, rub some people the wrong way, create some questions and those kind of things. Could you talk a little bit about that relationship or that, I guess, journey is probably a better word.
I mean, luckily with my parents, they were always willing to at least attempt to answer the question. With some of my uncles, they're like, I'm the elder, you just need to listen to, and I'm like, that doesn't work for me. Like, sorry, I'm not going to just do it because you tell me to do it. Even in junior high, my mother could not tell me who I could and could not be friends with.
Mm-hmm. So then,
it just doesn't work that way. So luckily the parents that I have were always, at least, especially my dad. So my dad was always like, okay, what do you see? I'm like, I see a sunset. Okay, describe it. What does it look like? How does it feel? So I got a lot of that from my dad. Mm-hmm. And searching on how to like describe things or feel things or describe how I see them or that kind of stuff. But I also found out through going to school and learning what energy is or what energy work is. I realized my grandma did it. My maternal grandmother did energy work, but she called it her Christian chant. But it was the same thing. My right leg is shorter than my left leg. And so I would sit on a chair and I'd put my feet up on an ottoman. Mm-hmm. And she'd sit in front of me and she'd hold my ankles and she would do her Christian chant. And you could literally watch energetically, my legs would go back and forth until they evened out. Mm-hmm. And then my gait was better when I got up and I started walking again. Mm-hmm. And then I found out her late husband, my grandfather, did it. He would go to church and he would lay hands on people. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's all the same thing. You're still dealing with energy, whether you want to call it woo-woo, your Christian chant, or whatever label you want to give it. It's all, to me, it's all the same thing.
And I guess just to continue on that or to build on it, I think looking for that mechanism makes a lot of sense, especially for somebody who's asking, why all the time. You're going to try to find those different mechanisms. Did you have to kind of move away from like the family side and more into your teachers and those type of things as you went further along the spiritual journey? Did you have pushback on that of asking why too much of those kind of things? I think that's what a lot of people picture is it's almost like, I don't mean to call it a cult, don't worry, but it's like you get into the cult and you start asking who's behind the curtain and they're okay, no, we don't talk about that. Just talk about how much it helps you. And it's like, okay, I want to know why it helps me, who's doing this and all those kind of things. Could you talk some about that? Or is that just a misperception that us people who call it woo-woo just see?
I'm not really sure where to go with that. I'm not really sure where to go with that. As far as pushback with the family, I just stopped telling them stuff because they're all Orthodox Christian. My mom actually recently told me in the last few months that she's worried for me because of all the things that I'm into. And it's like, okay, you don't understand that your parents did the same thing. They just called it something different. Mm-hmm. So but I need to be true to myself,
Mhm.
right? And this is what I am called to do. And so if she needs to be in her emotions, she needs to be in her space, and I need to do mine. So I just set those boundaries. I will tell you what I think, how much or what I think you're comfortable with,
Mhm.
and the rest of it is for me to keep.
Mhm.
And anytime I have these kind of conversations and I feel, right, so now I can feel energy. So if I feel like their energy is rejecting what I'm saying, then I'll just stop and I'll respect their space. Like if they're rejecting it, obviously they don't want to hear it. And for me, it's respect. I respect that you don't want to hear this. I respect that you have a different opinion, and I honor that, and I will let you be in your space. And then I'm also honoring myself by allowing me to be who I am.
All right, I got to ask this because what I'm hearing is you're reading the energy level, and what I'm wondering is if we're all reading it and not seeing it in a
Yes.
sense of body language and facial expressions and things like that. Is that part of it, or are you feeling, because I've done a couple of those things where you put the hands and you feel
Mm-hmm.
the sort of thing going between the hands. I did that at a Tony Robbins thing years ago.
Yeah.
So there is some stuff out there. So I'm just curious for the non trained, are we maybe seeing it and not realizing it? I guess is really the question.
100%. You ever walk into a room and you're like, oh, there's something uncomfortable about this space. Your energy is reading the energy of the room.
Mhm.
And it then gives you the physical manifestation of the chills or the creepy crawlies, or I'm just not, or this person's going to be my best friend. I don't know why, and I only met you 5 seconds ago, but I know you're going to be my best friend, right? You're
Back
reading
off.
that.
Back off.
Right? So that is energy reading, even though you're doing it subconsciously and not consciously.
Well, I got to share with you our good buddy Scotty Mann taught me something not that long ago. I think it was the last time he was on the show.
Yeah.
He's a professional speaker, and we were just talking about some of his techniques and things. And one of the things that he does that is part of his preparation is before anybody's in the room, either that early that morning or the day before, he'll go into the room and put his hands on the wall and feels the, I don't remember if he actually said energy of the room, but we'll just say, Scotty, I'm calling you out, brother. He feels the energy in the room by putting his hands on the wall, and I've started doing that, and it's really a comforting feeling, because then I'm so much more familiar with the space,
Right.
and it changes the deep that nervousness we all have, no matter how many times you get in front of people and speak. It changes that. It really
Yeah,
does.
you're connecting with that space. Every
Mhm.
room, every space has a different energy or personality or essence to it, right? Have you ever gotten a massage where they just go straight to work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever gotten a massage where they put their hands on you and they ask you to just take a couple of big deep breaths first before they go to
No, I
work?
never paid that much for it.
That's that $20
Not that kind
add-on.
of not
That's
that
right.
kind of massage.
Well, that's not what I did. Gosh.
There's a difference when you just lay your
Oh
hands
man.
on somebody and you
Uh-huh.
ask them to take a couple of big breaths first. You're getting in sync with their body waves, with their body, with their energy. And then you can tailor your massage and your rhythms to their rhythm. And then they get a better massage out of it. They get a better experience. It's the same thing as what your friend was doing, right? Or like when some people go in and they set the tone of the room, right? Or they stage the room. They're setting the energy for it. They're setting the ambiance, the tone, all that stuff. That's all energy.
What just came to mind with this, actually, and I think it's partially because we're coming up on Halloween, so it's spooky season a little bit, so I'm watching all that stuff. But I remember my wife and I were watching a documentary, and I can't remember the guy's name. He's some creepy guy from 100 years ago. But he had this cult. He was a cult leader, and one of the things that people would talk about is he could do all this magic. And I remember as we're going through the documentary, what was fascinating to me was this idea of like, okay, yeah, he probably can't, make things fly or whatever, but what is he actually doing? And I think that's an interesting thing that you kind of touched on, Wendy. It's like, okay, what is the real mechanism? I can't read your mind, but I can read your energy and those kind of things. Right. Could you talk a little bit about like what that kind of real life mechanism looks like for those energy side of things, as far as like we kind of mentioned we mentioned stress earlier and like what it does to your body. Could you talk a little bit about maybe, I don't know, like we talked about like scanning the room or scanning the person, what kind of things you can pick up on in that, maybe something that the listeners can carry out of their day to try to start picking up on these things that, like you said, that we're seeing them, but we're not really like noting what they are.
Right. So it's just becoming aware, right? It's becoming aware of how you are responding to the environment that you're in. Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel safe? Do you feel threatened? Do you feel creepy? Do you what is the adjective that is associated with how you feel in the space that you're in, or the person that you're talking to? It's asking yourself, how do I feel around this person? How do I feel about this conversation? How do I feel about this room? And as you start becoming more aware, right? It's just like any other muscle memory, right? You have to start easy, and then the more you learn, the more you learn, and the easier it becomes, right? Just like you'd never forget how to learn how to ride a bike,
right?
We don't forget how to use it. We just aren't aware that we're using it. So it's just bringing it back into awareness.
Could you talk some about why that happens, or why, I guess, that why we stop being in tune to it? Because I would guess, when we've had conversations with similar people about this, it's like, well, it's a natural thing. A kid can read energy really well, and then at some point along the lines, we start ignoring that, and then later on, we go have a session with Wendy, and I start going, oh, I can start doing all these things. It's there that whole time, but we kind of close it off.
So from my personal experience, and I just found this out probably about 8 years or so ago, apparently I used to read people's auras and their energies really well as a kid, but I would say I didn't know discernment, right? So I would say whatever I noticed, and either they didn't like it being said out loud, right? Or they didn't know it or whatever. And so then I would get in trouble for it. Right? So the more, as a kid, the more you get in trouble for it, and you learn, and your parental community, or whatever you want to call it, tells you that that's a bad thing, then the more you learn not to do it, right? So there's that aspect of it. And then there's all the stimulants that we have, right? The cell phone towers, TVs, devices, concrete, all of these things that interfere or manipulate how we're receiving energy to where it gets us confused. So I think the more we have become civilized, the less in tune we've become with our intuitions, our survival instincts, our, being aware of our energies, all of those different things. And so now it's like, okay, now we just need to revamp and go back to how we used to be and just be more aware of that stuff.
This episode of the Camden and Otis Show is brought to you by Evergood Adventure Wines.
Our loyal listeners know Evergood's founder, Matthew Hexter, and our good friend. From his appearances on the show, they have never disappointed. And Evergood Adventure Wines doesn't disappoint either.
No, it doesn't. Evergood is a craft winery from Colorado that makes wine from lemons, not grapes.
That's right. Picture this: adult lemonade.
Oh yeah, perfect for your next backyard barbecue or hanging out with friends at the beach or the pool. No need to drink a warm red grape wine when it's 100 degrees out or much hotter here in Tucson. Evergood over ice is the perfect refreshment for a hot summer day.
And they come in a variety of flavors, including lemon, strawberry, lime, my favorite for margaritas, grapefruit, and watermelon, which comes in a cool pouch, by the way. These non-carbonated wines check all the boxes: gluten-free, vegan, low sugar, and low in sulfites. Best of all, they taste damn good, and they have fun names too.
Yeah, like their OG lemon wine called Skierpy. Yeah, y'all heard that one right, Skierpy. And I'll tell you, Skierpy is also one of my favorites.
Evergood now ships to 41 states, so you can order your lemon wines online at evergoodadventurewines.com.
Plus, Matthew is being kind enough to offer 20% off for all of our listeners. Just use promo code CAM-OTIS at checkout to get 20% off and start enjoying these amazing lemon wines.
So y'all go to evergoodadventurewines.com. Evergoodadventurewines.com. That's a mouthful, folks. I'm going to say it the third time. Evergoodadventurewines.com. Or click the link in the description in the show. Click buy now to redeem your Cam and Otis Show exclusive discount. So what I'd really love for you to help us understand in this aspect, because a minute ago, and I knew this, and I apologize, you're pivoting your business away from the massage therapy into helping people in a more, well, I was going to say holistic, but I was thinking massage therapy, energy massage was more holistic, but you're doing it in a different fashion. Could you walk us through that to better understand what that means, and how do you do that for folks?
Yeah, so right now I'm really focused on one-on-one workshops. And so our first appointment is really getting to know you, what you believe, how you were raised, what are your ethics, what are your values, all of the ushy-gushy little juicy stuff. And then we start going into, okay, well, what's working for you and what's not working for you? Because they're both equally important. Because then when you decide what's not working for you, we can kind of tailor that towards the things that are working for you in order to get them into alignment. So I do it through mindset. I do it through energy clearings with my crystals and my hands and all of that stuff in order to release the energy that you don't know that you're holding on to. And then followed by a meditation with a former monk in order to concrete all of that in. The mindset changes, the energy changes, and then the meditation that kind of concreted it and set it.
All right, so I'm getting my head around this.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about some stuff, and we're going woo woo from my point of view. And you know me and the woo woo stuff. Woo woo don't work with me. But so what you've developed a skill set that we all have that can see it, feel it. And the other piece, I think that most of us have lost that skill, is being able to explain it. I'm good up to that point, and then the crystal thing. Are you picking up rocks and shaking them, or what?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No. Just like concrete has a different element to it than volcanic rock or lime or quartz. They all have different elements to them, right? So even volcanic rock right now is being used for healing. Volcanic ashes and rocks. So I get the rocks or the crystals, whatever words you want to use for them, because whatever. And I use them based off of their elements and their healing purposes.
almost like the colors. Then, like we're talking in that same sort of sense. So it's the elements
Yes.
in the rocks that have that smell, taste, feel aura about them, right?
Hmm.
Okay.
Right. So like clear rocks or crystals versus pink rocks or crystals are going to have different elements and different healing aspects to them.
All right. So I'm thinking I'm going to get in the truck and drive down to New Mexico and grab me some of the volcanic rocks there around back home. So probably not supposed to do that though. I don't think.
Depends on the volcano, I guess. I mean, I've been to Mount St. Helens, and it was totally okay to collect some of the volcanic ash and take it home. So
Oh, really? Cool. So you got like a jar of it?
I
Does
did
that-
for the longest time. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. So
you,
was that
you
part
about
of
to
your?
ask? I was gonna say, are you about to ask what the volcanic ash does?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. I mean, come
All
on.
right.
I'm not entirely sure what the volcanic ash does. I think it operates like off a like a filtering system. So kind of like what your kidney does, right? So it's
So
makes you think of charcoal. So that makes sense.
charcoal. Yep. Yeah. So they're using charcoal in a lot of cleansings in order to filter out different elements.
all right. Now that we're talking about rocks, when I was in Germany, and oh man, Doc Silas. So we're walking around a Christmas market. My buddy Mark and I were walking around a Christmas market, and Doc Silas, he's a medical doctor in the Army, wanted to buy a soapstone. And is that with a light in it? Is that giving off energy? Is that why he? I mean, we made fun of him because that was the first thing he bought, and we were there for 3 hours. He's carrying around this 15-pound rock for 3
Might have want to save that till last, but whatever.
So, is that kind of the same thing though as the crystals, the volcanic ash? It has some elements to it, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, and these are nothing new. They've been around for thousands of years, right? It's just current society has made it more woo-woo, but the Asian cultures, Egyptians, Native Americans, South Americans, the older cultures have been doing it for millennia.
Awesome. Well, I tell you, my learning list is
Growing.
and I make fun of my English. My learned list is really hitting it. But I'm going to go back to the one that I'm most familiar with, and that's the color alignment and thinking about my red tie. Since I don't wear a tie anymore, I put a red pocket square in.
There you go.
Same effect. Maybe one of these days I'll buy a red sport coat. So my energy alignment with that, because I was thinking about, I'm going to walk into this room and I'm going to command this room. And that's why I was putting that on. So
that's right.
Now I have a broader aspect of that. Camden, how about you? What'd you learn?
Well, after hearing that, I think as I go get ready for our game tonight, I think I got to wear my red coaching polo so I can bring that energy, bring that fire into the team, because we got to have that right for the game. But no,
and watch how the kids respond to it.
I'll have to start keeping notes of when I wear the blue polo versus the red polo and see how it's
A/B testing. A/B testing, man.
A/B testing, that's right. But no, what I was going to say was, as all jokes aside, talk about Wendy's and all that earlier. Dad, write this down. That's a dream sponsor for me. I love me a Baconator. So if we can get Wendy's to start sponsoring the show, maybe I'll take a Baconator a week. It doesn't have to be every day. Baconator a week. I'll give them the sponsorship deal.
And not this Wendy, but the Wendy. Yes, but Wendy, if you want to sponsor us with Baconators each week,
I was gonna say we can get some kind of co-sponsorship going. Make sure the Baconators are all built properly. Put them on top of the right crystals. So they got the energy going in them.
Oh man.
I don't know that that'll be edible. I don't want any lawsuits because you consumed a rock and now it's, torn your esophagus.
Hey, Dad, that's why we have the Farages, right? We've got our dental partners.
That's right. That's right. Wendy, what'd you learn today?
I learned that you guys are a lot of fun and that these conversations can go anywhere at any time.
Yes, they can. Believe me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My cheeks hurt.
I'm sorry about the whole rock thing, but
No, don't apologize. It was funny. My parents came and visit a few months ago for the first time since I moved out here. And I took them up by Morrison and Red Rocks and all that stuff. And we go into a store that had crystals in it. And my dad, right, don't know, as far as I know, he's just straight laced as anybody else. And he starts looking at he's like, aren't these rocks pretty? I'm like, yes, the crystals are pretty. He's like, did you know that I have some? I was like, no. And I was like, since when did you start collecting crystals? He's like, they're rocks. He's like, but I want to start putting them out in the house. I'm like, Mom's going to let you put crystals in. He's like, shh, they're rocks. If you call them rocks, she might let me put them out.
Hey, I got to add though, because I think it's funny. Dad, you want to apologize about the rock thing. Wendy, obviously it's okay, and I think that's one of those things where it's like it shows that your true passion on it. Because somebody going, all right, what's up with these rocks? Is the way that they're curious about what you're doing. Just like somebody like take rugby. Somebody's like, what? So you guys just smash into each other? Well, yeah, kind of. And then there's more to it. But it's like it's that kind of silly question that gets things moving. It's that genuine curiosity. So I just had to point that out because I love that. I always love when you see people, because the people who are insecure, when you ask a question like that, they don't like it.
Right. And I don't get offended by nothing. So I'm just like, as long as we're having a good time, I don't care. You call them the vocabulary is just vocabulary.
Right. Oh yeah, words are just words.
Yeah.
There you go. Wendy, speaking of words, Wendy, how do folks find you, get in contact with you, learn more about what y'all got going on?
So my website and all of my social handles are at TBR Spiritual Health. So TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Yelp, you name it, you can find me. I don't make it very hard.
No.
And you can also get my book on Amazon, which is all about verbal turbulence and all of the turbulence that we got going on in our heads.
I like that.
Love it. Well, Wendy, it has been great having you today. Thanks for playing along with us this afternoon.
I should say the same in return. Thanks for playing along with me.
Awesome. All right, Camden, run us out, please.
All right. Thank y'all for listening to today's episode of the Camden and Otis Show, and a special thanks to our guest, Wendy Watson, for joining us today. Remember, you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at the Camden and Otis Show. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to share it with other lifelong learners in your tribe so they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, the full archive of episodes is available at www.camdenandotisshow.com. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next time.